That's when I make a beeline for the tree line. That's when I make a beeline for the tree line.
What's up, how's things going? Welcome back to Initiation of Family Animation, including SpongeBob, the Pineapple, the Sea, as well as TV and movies. I'm your host, Jackson Small. Welcome back to SpongeBob Chapter 6. Today we're going to get 2 more episodes. One episode's decent, one episode's terrible. The terrible episode is shuffleboarding. The decent episode is Professor Squidward. You guys know how it works by now, so let's not waste any more time. Let's deal with the trash bag first. Have you ever seen a SpongeBob episode just give up on itself, not even halfway through the episode? Yeah, that's what happens here. Because you think from the title and the beginning of the episode, you think, oh, this episode's going to be about SpongeBob and Patrick impersonating Merman and Barnacle Boy to win a tournament of shuffleboarding. Well, it already sounds like a boring episode, but what ends up happening instead is that they win the tournament immediately, and instead they decide to start throwing people in jail for just itty-bitty little nitpicks. Yeah, in other words, it's mid-season SpongeBob at its most lazy, generic, and boring. So, let's not waste any time and get this out of the way so that we don't have to talk about this episode again, shall we? So, in this episode, as I already stated before, Merman and Barnacle Boy end up having to be impersonated by SpongeBob and Patrick after they accidentally injured the real people. With a murmurang. A bit that didn't need to be there, and that just wastes time. 2, the costumes are terrible. I mean, who would actually believe them as Merman and Barnacle Boy with those costumes? No, their actual costumes are better than that. And, like I said, the episode gives up on itself not even halfway through the episode, because you think, oh, it's going to be about shuffleboarding, okay, interesting, let's see how they make it work. But then SpongeBob pops up as Patrick's having a speech to, hype himself up, and all of a sudden he's just like, oh, we already won the tournament. Bro, like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, why would you just give up on yourself halfway through the episode? If you don't have anything good for the actual episode, don't make the freaking episode. It's not that hard. Or, I don't know, scrap the idea entirely and try something else. But no. The rest of the episode's about SpongeBob and Patrick throwing people in jail for minuscule tiny things, like you're chewing too loud, or your shoe's untied, or you threw away a Krabby Patty. Now, at first it's just Patrick doing this, but then SpongeBob ends up joining the fun because, he is mid-season stupid, and the episode ends with the whole jail being packed of everyone Bikini Bottom, and now they're all unleashed on Merman and Barnacle Boy as they just got out of the hospital. And the episode ends with them being chased by all the people, thinking it was them the whole time, putting them in jail. Is there anything good in this episode? Well, the shrunken head bit with Man Ray was fine, but the rest of it is just boring and pointless. I mean, why even make this episode if you're not actually going to do what you promised in your title of the episode? If you want to make an episode called Shuffleboarding, make the episode about shuffleboarding. Don't make it think that it is a shuffleboarding episode, and then just veer it around to SpongeBob and Patrick being horrible. This episode's garbage. It shouldn't have been made, honestly. I think they should have just scrapped this idea entirely and did something else. If you want to include Merman and Barnacle Boy in an episode in mid-season SpongeBob, why not bring back one of their other villains aside from Man Ray? Someone we haven't seen in a while, like the Atomic Flounder, or many of the other villains that have been seen in this show. Or even better, make Merman and Barnacle Boy team up with SpongeBob and Patrick to stop Plankton. That sounds like a fun episode. But they don't do that, and instead we just get this boring, tedious garbage pile that should have just been left on the cutting room floor. Final verdict for this absolute terrible garbage episode that gives up on itself halfway through is a 1 out of 10. If you don't want to do an episode about actual shuffleboarding, then just scrap your concept entirely and start over, rather than just forcing it out the door with this absolute terrible garbage. Alright, let's move on to the next episode, which is actually decent. Professor Squidward. Dear writers of SpongeBob, this is how you do a Squidward losing episode properly. Instead of making him go through torture and misery because he's Squidward, and for no other reason whatsoever aside from bad writing demanding it, actually make him deserving of his misery. And in this episode, he kind of does deserve it, and it actually makes the episode a lot better. I'm not going to call this episode great or anything, it's decent at best, but you know what, I will take it. In a season full of garbage, I will take it. So, in the episode Professor Squidward, Squidward is accidentally confused by music people that he's Squilliam. I mean, I can kind of buy it, they are both cephalopods, so it's not that bad. So he ends up impersonating Squilliam as a professor at this college, music college, and who ends up going into that class with SpongeBob and Patrick. And the rest of the episode is Squidward trying to keep this facade going, while SpongeBob and Patrick almost completely ruin it for him. You know, until the ending where it kind of just flips around on itself. But, okay, so this episode, right off the bat, is immediately better than half of the Squidward episodes of this season, because it actually gets what I'm trying to say all this month about Squidward episodes. If there is a Squidward episode that you want to do where he loses in the end, have him deserving of it. Don't make him tortured and miserable just because he's Squidward. Like, in this episode, he deserves it. This is a karma trip for him. It's not a torture episode, it's a karma trip, because he tries to impersonate his rival, and he gets punished for it, rightfully so. And this episode actually does have some pretty decent moments, and the gag that actually made me laugh, and I forgot how funny it was until I rewatched this episode for this review, was Patrick and the whole little train bit. Like, it's useless, it doesn't have any point in the episode, but it's funny. The way that Patrick just pulls out a conductor hat, pulls out a train, and then he somehow shrinks himself on the train, and gets on the train, on the tracks, on the floor, and starts riding the train in front of the entire class, right into a garbage can where Squidward throws him out the door. Oh, it should not be funny, but it is. I don't know how it's funny, but it is funny. It's so random. And the rest of the episode, honestly, Squidward's deserving of his misery, as I already said, so that's immediately making it way better than half the episodes of the season. But also, SpongeBob and Patrick aren't that bad here. Are they a little mid-season stupid? Yes, but it's not as bad as it is in something like Squid's Visit, or like we've just talked about recently with freaking Cephalopod Lodge. Like, in this episode, Squidward deserves his misery because he's impersonating his rival, and he gets punished for it as he should, immediately making it better than pretty much every other Squidward episode of this season. Then you add on the fact that SpongeBob and Patrick aren't too bad. There's one funny bit with Patrick and the train that comes out of nowhere, and Squidward loses in the end for justifiable reasons. Even though the way they actually execute the lie being revealed is a little confusing. It's hard to really say, but you'll get it once you watch the episode. And I do recommend you watch this one at least once. It's actually a decent Squidward episode. And considering we're in mid-season SpongeBob, where he's usually tormented for no reason, that's saying something. Final verdict for this episode is a solid 6 out of 10. I wouldn't actively seek it out again, but I won't change the channel if it's on. It's a decent episode. Alright, final thoughts. No rankings because one of these episodes is abysmal garbage. Yeah, overall final thoughts, not the worst 2 pack of episodes that we've looked at in this season, but by no means good. Like, one episode's decent, and then the other one is abysmal dumpster fire trash that people need to rip apart more often. So, it's still a pretty rough one, but it's somewhat better than we've had recently. So, I'll take it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Sponge-tastic videos like this almost every single day, and stay tuned because we have one more episode review to do for today. And unfortunately, it's 2 really, really bad episodes. So, prepare yourself, because the next one's going to be entirely 100% negative. See you next time for Pets or Pests and Computer Overload.
Lesson I will soon forget, so listen and you won't regret. Be true to yourself, don't miss your chance, and you won't end up like the fool who ripped his pants.